So today we're going to learn how to factorize cubics and other polynomials as well. So whenever we want to factorize polynomials, particularly cubics in this case, I want to factorize x cubed plus 3x squared take 6x take 8. I want it to look like a linear factor product. So something like this, where you have linear terms multiplied together, and that's what a factorized form of this cubic would look like. The first step one, is to always write out all your factors of this last term here, in this case minus 8. And the factors that I can think of are 1, 2, 4, and 8, as well as negative 1, negative 2, negative 4, and negative 8. So if I were to divide negative 8 by any of these numbers, I'd be left with a whole integer. The next step we have to do is we have to substitute each of these values for x until we get an equation that equals to 0. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to sub in 1 for x in this equation. And if I do that, I'll have 1 cubed plus 3 times 1 squared minus 6 times 1 minus 8. Well, now we know 1 cubed is just 1, and 3 times 1 squared is 3, minus 6 minus 8. And we have to see if this equals to 0 or not. So 1 plus 3 is 4, minus 6 is minus 2, and minus 2 minus 8 is minus 10. So because this is minus 10, this is not the number that we want. So I'm not going to use 1 in this case. Now, we could start substituting in numbers this way. So I could substitute 2, then 4, then 8. But what I recommend is to just substitute the number that's negative directly below it. So the next number I'm going to substitute is x equals minus 1. So if I substitute x equals minus 1, it'll look something like this. And again, I'm trying to see whether this equation here is equal to 0 or not. So let's start substituting in numbers now. So minus 1 cubed is minus 1, plus 3 times minus 1 squared is 3, plus 6 minus 8. Minus 1 plus 3 is 2, plus 6 is 8, take 8 is equal to 0. So there we go. We have found our first number. X equals to minus 1 makes this equation equal to 0. So now that we have this number, let's actually try and figure out why we need to do that and what we can do next with this. So we know that x equals to minus 1 is a factor. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this as x plus 1 equals to 0. The reason I've done this is now I'm able to do long division with polynomials. I take my original polynomial over here, and now all I'm going to do with it is divide it by x plus 1. If you're not too sure why, I'll explain it later. But for now, just know I'm going to divide this polynomial by this linear factor over here. Because we already have one factor, we just need to find out the others. So I'm going to set up a long division bracket like such. I'm going to set it up like this. Just like this, and I'm going to have x plus 1 on the outside like that. And I'm going to bring this down, and let's have a look at this question. How do we long divide polynomials like this? Well, it's very repetitive, but the more practice you get, it should be very, very simple for you. The first step we do is we divide. We take this x cubed, and we divide it by the x over here. So if we do x cubed divided by x, we know this is the same as just x squared. And so with that x squared, I'm just going to write it out here, x squared. The second step we do is we need to times this x squared by x plus 1. So x squared times x plus 1, that would simply be x cubed plus x squared, because we're doing distributive law and this is index laws. So now that I have that, I can write that directly underneath my polynomial here. X cubed plus x squared. Now what I have to do is I have to take this terms away from these terms here. So what I mean by that is we want to take away each of those terms. So x cubed minus x cubed is just equal to 0, so I'm not going to write anything here, they just cancel away. And 3x squared minus x squared is the same as 2x squared. So now that I have this, I'm just going to bring down this 6x over here. Minus 6x. And now all we do is we repeat the steps. So 2x squared, we divide it by the first term, which is x, and we get plus 2x. So I'm just going to write it there at the end of the division symbol. And then we repeat. We take the 2x and we times it by the x plus 1. So 2x times x is 2x squared, and 2x times 1 is plus 2x. Now you know that we have to minus away these terms here, away from these terms here. A little tip for you guys. I personally do not like doing minus like this. The moment you have two negatives next to each other and you say, let's say 2x take 2x, that's actually 4x. And it's actually very easy to make a mistake like this, even though a lot of you know that this is the correct way to do it. So what I like to do instead is I like to just change this symbol underneath from a positive to a negative like this. So now when I'm doing the question, I'll do it like this. 2x squared take 2x squared is equal to 0, so those two cancel out. And now instead of doing minus 6x minus plus 2x, I could make a mistake here and I could say minus instead of plus or plus instead of minus. I'm just going to do minus 6x minus 2x. So that way in my mind I'm not going to make any mistakes with this. So minus 6x minus 2x is the same as minus 8x. And now we have to do it one last time. Minus 8x divided by x is just 8. Minus 8, sorry. And then we do minus 8 times by x plus 1. And that would just be minus 8x minus 8. And once again, I'm going to bring down this minus 8. So it'll just say minus 8x minus 8. One last time. Now we have to minus away these two terms here. When we minus away these two terms, we know that minus 8x minus 8x is equal to 0, so they just cancel out. And minus 8 minus minus 8. You see how that can be a little bit confusing sometimes? So all I do in my mind is I just put a little plus underneath. Because now all I'm going to do is minus 8 plus 8, and that's equal to 0. So there we have it. That's how you do polynomial division using long division. And what do we do now? So we have this division here. We divided this polynomial by x plus 1 and we got this. Another way of saying this is that the original cubic that we had, x cubed plus 3x squared minus 6x minus 8, we can rewrite this as x plus 1 times x squared plus 2x minus 8. So another way of thinking about it is the original long polynomial that I have, I can rewrite it as the product of the two outer terms. So if I times these two outer terms together, I get the inner polynomial. Now all we have to do is we have to factorize this even further. We have to factorize this so we have 3 linear terms. And the way we get 3 linear terms from this is we just have to factorize our quadratic. And we can do that through a number of methods, but for today I'm just going to do the product and sum method. If I have x plus 1 out here, I can factorize this, or I can split the middle term, and I can say this is the same thing as x squared plus 4x take 2x take 8. Now what I can do is I can factorize x plus 1, and then I can factorize from here I'll do a big square brackets. So from the first two terms here, I can factorize out an x. So if I factorize x, I'll be left with x plus 4. And for this last two terms, if I factorize out minus 2, because that's what's common between the two of them, I'll be left with an x plus 4. So what does this actually mean? What this means is I can actually continue factorizing here. So if I have x plus 1 still on the outside, and I factorize out the x plus 4 again, you can see that I'll be left with x and I take 2. If I factorize these two, I'll be left with an x, and I'll be left with a minus 2. And there you go. This is the factorized version of the original cubic that I had at the start, which was all the way up here. This was our original polynomial, and the way I have factorized it is into these three linear terms here. That is how you do a polynomial factorization, particularly with cubics.